From the long-awaited returns of former world champions to new faces that could change the complexion of WWE going forward, this bunch of stars may not find themselves in a prominent position on the WrestleMania 37 card. However, they could be the names on everyone's lips as Mania season draws to a compelling close. I'm Gareth from What Culture Wrestling, and here are 10 WWE superstars who could debut or return the night after WrestleMania 37. Number 10. Becky Lynch. We're coming up to a year since the last time we saw former Raw and SmackDown Women's Champion Becky Lynch last compete in the Squared Circle. Not long after besting Shayna Baszler at WrestleMania 36, the man announced to the world that she would be relinquishing her title as Lynch had recently found out she was set to become the mom. Why they'd return. Almost from the moment Lynch and Seth Rollins welcomed their first child into the world, fans have been clamoring and fantasizing over when the Irish star will make her return. Lynch even poked fun at this relentless theorizing at the 2021 Royal Rumble, posting a photo of the gorilla position curtains before teasing that she just thought it was a really nice picture of a curtain, and she does have a point. It's still only been a couple of months since the star, gave birth to another human, so it may perhaps still be a little bit too early to suggest she's a nailed-on returnee post-Mania 37. But the star was spotted hammering an exercise bike late into her pregnancy, so perhaps she's closer to a return than we think. Number 9. Tessa Blanchard. On the back of leaving Impact Wrestling in June of last year, being stripped of the Impact World Championship in the process, Tessa Blanchard would largely go missing for much of 2020. Her only match of any significance came against Kylie Ray on the Indies, dropping the Warrior Wrestling Women's Championship to the challenger in September. Why they debut? For a time, it seemed as though wrestling fans could not go a day without hearing about Blanchard being linked with a move to WWE, or even debuting at an upcoming event in the wake of her Impact departure. However, the star still hasn't made her presence known in the company, with not being able to get in and out of Mexico safely with her husband at this current time being cited as a main obstacle. Could allegations of racism and bullying made against Blanchard by the likes of current WWE talent Chelsea Green and many others also have put WWE off signing the star? Reports stating that WWE are still in fact interested seem to suggest otherwise, hinting that a Blanchard debut on the Raw or SmackDown after Mania could be a very real possibility. Number 8. Finn Balor. Hot on the heels of a deeply disappointing Intercontinental Championship run in 2019, Finn Balor found himself coming face to face with WWE's newest Fiend. Then, not long after being the first person to lock horns with Bray Wyatt's new alter ego at SummerSlam, Balor was left staring up at the lights as his once thrilling main roster run came to a painful close. Why they'd return. The Prince that showed up on NXT programming 2 months on from his Wyatt mugging and has continued to up his game as the brand's current NXT champion is a very different beast to the one that ultimately stumbled on Raw and SmackDown. Balor's revitalized character has gone down so well on Wednesday nights that the idea of him simply spending a few months on the Black and Gold brand before returning to the apparent main roster was soon scrapped. Judging from Balor's recent words, however, it appears as though a return to either Raw or SmackDown is inevitable at some point. So could a beltless Balor, assuming he does do the job for a Killer Cross at TakeOver, unleash his Raw or SmackDown demon once again post-Mania 37? I think you can count on it. Number 7. Eva Marie. When the brands were finally split once again in July 2016, Eva Marie found herself taking up a spot on the SmackDown Live roster. Establishing herself as one of the main heels in the show's women's division, Marie would often spend more time getting to the ring than she would actually throwing down with her colleagues. She would be suspended shortly after, however, due to a wellness policy violation and ultimately leave the company in August 2017. Why they'd return. Just a few months ago, it looked as though Marie's return to the company was pretty much imminent. Yet we're still to see the star, known in WWE for her wardrobe malfunctions and evasion tactics, make an appearance on Raw, SmackDown, or NXT. The star was recently pictured enjoying the Royal Rumble alongside recent WWE signing Parker Boudreaux, with the two both hinting at a partnership going forward. However, the chances of her turning up alongside the newcomer in NXT seem slim, with the actor/fitness ambassador more likely to turn up on Raw or SmackDown post-Mania in an attempt to add some extra star power to either show. Number 6. Toni Storm. As of recording, Toni Storm is currently enjoying a rather impressive return to form on the black and gold brand. After a few weeks of shaking off the ring rust, understandably built up over 8 months of inactivity thanks to the current global health crisis, Storm seems to be getting back to her best. This was evidenced in her thrilling recent matchup against NXT Women's Champion Io Shirai. Why they debut. With a dominant reign as NXT UK Champion, 2018 Mae Young Classic victory, and a frightening amount of experience for someone her age under Storm's belt already, it seems as though she could be set to follow in longtime rival Rhea Ripley's shoes sooner rather than later. Had Storm managed to get the better of Shirai in their title match, perhaps the New Zealander would be primed for a longer spell on Wednesday nights. But outside of forming an unlikely alliance and challenging for the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships, which could actually happen now come to think of it, it seems as though Toni's time would be best spent making an impact on either the Monday or Friday after Mania 37. Number 5. Davey Boy Smith Jr. It's been a staggering 10 years since we last saw the son of the British Bulldog ply his trade in a WWE ring, with Davey Boy Smith Jr. last being spotted losing to Zack Ryder on an episode of Superstars in 2011. Man, do I feel old. Since then, the former Hart Dynasty member has gone on to forge an impressive career for himself on the independent scene and in other promotions around the world. Successful spells in New Japan Pro Wrestling and Major League Wrestling highlighted just how far the star has come in his time away from WWE. Smith Jr. even locked horns with former AEW World Champion Jon Moxley at the most recent Bloodsport event too. Why they'd return? If rumors are to be believed, Smith Jr. has already held serious talks with WWE about a return in the very near future. The star is also set to induct his father into the WWE Hall of Fame in just a few weeks' time, so perhaps he'll just stick around for a bit longer afterwards. Though a run on NXT UK has been hinted at, it definitely makes more sense to simply throw this familiar face back into the main roster mix as a welcome surprise post-Mania 37. Number 4. Samoa Joe. Coming into 2020, it looked as though Samoa Joe had put his injury woes far behind him, forming an alliance with Kevin Owens as the pair warred with Seth Rollins and his cronies on Raw. An unfortunate head injury while shooting a commercial for the company soon saw him sidelined once again in February, however, with a wellness policy violation also leading to a 30-day suspension. He'd returned to WWE TV in April in a commentary role on The Red Show, and has been one of the voices of Monday nights ever since. Why they'd return? As recently as this month, Joe has expressed his desire to return to what he does best, whooping ass and taking names in the ring. Yet we still aren't 100% sure whether the star is medically cleared to compete once again, or if WWE are just saving his return for a big occasion. Outside of the Royal Rumble, the Raw or SmackDown after Mania is your next best bet for shock returns. And few would get fans out of their seats if they're actually in attendance, like the badass former NXT champion unleashing hell after finally stepping out of the commentary booth. Number 3. CM Punk. In terms of actively performing inside of a wrestling ring, it's been a whopping 7 years since the voice of the voiceless last took any sort of bump in a WWE arena. In the years since walking out on the company post-2014 Royal Rumble, CM Punk has amassed a disappointing 0-2 MMA record whilst fighting in the UFC, and has also tried his hand at acting, commentating, and comic book writing. The guy is talented. He then makes something of a WWE return in 2019, showing up on WWE Backstage as a regular analyst under Fox contract. Why they'd return? Money, and lots of it. Perhaps there's a little more to it than that. Punk himself has admitted that it would take the stupidest amount of money to lure him back into a ring, but also stressed that he'd need a story that would be fun to tell. If WWE were seriously interested in bringing back the former WWE champion on the post-Mania Raw or SmackDown, the first condition likely wouldn't be much of a problem. It remains to be seen whether the company has a story up their sleeves tantalizing enough to force the Chicago native to strut back out to cult of personality though. But we can dream, eh? Number 2. Brock Lesnar. After falling to Drew McIntyre during the WrestleMania 36 Night 2 main event, losing his WWE Championship in the process, Brock Lesnar has been missing from both Raw and SmackDown. This is actually the longest period since returning to the company in 2012 that he spent on the sidelines, with the star reportedly becoming a free agent last year as well. Why they'd return? For a number of reasons, Lesnar's recent hiatus from the company should not come as much of a surprise. Ever since making that shocking comeback on the Raw after Mania 28, the Beast Incarnate has been used as a marquee attraction, capable of drawing in huge crowds to sell out arenas and bringing in a boatload of moolah for Vinnie Mac. With no crowds occupying arenas for the last 12 months, what sense was there in wasting the former UFC heavyweight champion on lackluster Thunderdome appearances? Not a lot. If fans are indeed allowed back into arenas in the wake of Mania 37, expect McMahon to pull his beast trigger sooner rather than later. And no, that is not Kenny Omega's new weird knee finisher. And what better way to welcome audiences back than with a shocking showdown with whoever is holding the top belt on the Raw after the show of shows. Number 1. Ronda Rousey. After setting the wrestling world on fire during an often jaw-dropping rookie year, it's somehow almost been 2 whole trips around the sun since we last saw Ronda Rousey beating the piss out of someone in the squared circle. She didn't half go out on a bang though, going toe-to-toe with Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair in the main event of WrestleMania 35. The first ever all-women's show closer in the event's history, but you knew that already. Why they'd return? The former UFC bantamweight champion originally decided to take a break from Vince McMahon's company as she wanted to focus more on starting a family. However, it's been widely reported in recent months that the star has begun training for a professional wrestling return in the not-too-distant future. With it now looking as though it's a little too late in the day to squeeze the baddest woman on the planet into a headline spot at Mania 37, perhaps WWE will save this long-awaited return for the first Raw or SmackDown immediately following the Raymond James Stadium show. If they really wanted to hit the ground running, why not have Lynch and Rousey resume hostilities less than 24 hours after this year's Mania? Ha, imagine! Yeah, you never know. And that's our list. Know of any other WWE superstars who could debut or return the night after WrestleMania 37? Let us know all about them in the comment section right down below, and do not forget to like, share, and go and click on that subscribe button. Also, be sure to head on over to whatculture.com and find some more fantastic articles just like the one this video is based on. Ha, and guess what? I wrote it too. I've been Gareth from What Culture Wrestling. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm sure I'll see you very soon. Bye!